Nobody wants to talk about sex because we don't have any examples of it. I mean, think of every sex scene that you've seen on the movies or on TV.
I burn for you.
The fucking fairy tale is the term that we came up to describe the perfect sex scene. Most of us have seen so many examples of this, we could script the perfect one ourselves. It's like characters just look at each other the right way. It's on. There's a mad dash for the bedroom. Seconds later, there's like a few moments of tangling around in the sheets, and then everybody's wildly satisfied. And as rational adults, we can understand, okay, life doesn't look the way it does in TV and in the movies. But if that's all that we've ever seen, and we've spent our entire lives seeing repetition and repetition of this exact same kind of scene, of course we're gonna have the belief that this is what our sex life should look like. And when we have a rough patch in our relationship, when that initial spark and chemistry that felt so strong at the beginning of a relationship starts to wear off, it can lead a lot of us to feeling scared, to feeling like something's wrong with us, broken with us, or maybe we're not the right fit in our relationship.
And the fucking fairy tale encourages us to not talk about sex because we also don't see characters talking about what they're doing. No one says, hey, do you like this or do you like that? And so, of course, we think, okay, there's something wrong with us because it's not going the way that it does in the fairy tale, and I better not say anything because they certainly aren't saying anything, and I don't want to admit that anything is wrong with me.
There are so many reasons why sex can start to feel complicated. I mean, work, responsibilities, stress levels, kids, all kinds of stuff can really get in the way. But really at the heart of it is that we stop putting the same sort of effort in towards our relationship. You know, a lot of people will tell us, I think back on those early days of my relationship, everything felt so effortless and so easy. But if you really take a look back, you were putting in a tremendous amount of effort. You're scheduling dates with each other. You're trying to do new things together. You're always showing your best foot with your partner, like trying to be the best version of you. You're spending all this time getting excited about spending time together, having that anticipation of being intimate with each other. So it's not that it wasn't complicated in the beginning. It's just that we had a very different attitude about that effort in those early stages.
Yeah, this is something that so many couples go through, including us. Like when Vanessa and I met, it started really hot and heavy. It felt super effortless. We were having sex all the time, and then it just felt like life kind of caught up with us, and all of a sudden it wasn't hot and heavy anymore, and we didn't know what to do. And honestly, looking back, that's when I wish someone had handed me this book and been able to say, hey, these are the 5 conversations that you could start having right now to get things fired up again.
So here are the 5 conversations that we think will transform every couple's love life. The first one is acknowledgement. We want couples to start talking about sex comfortably in their relationship. So it's kind of like sex is a thing. We have it.
Yep.
We can talk about it. The second conversation is connection. What do we need to feel connected to each other on a day-to-day basis so that intimacy doesn't feel like this huge leap? The third conversation is desire. What do we need to feel turned on, to get excited about being intimate with each other? So many of us, especially us women, feel like we're low desire or even no desire, and we don't take the time to really consider the quality of the sex that we're having, to ask ourselves, am I having sex that is worth craving? Which leads us right into the fourth conversation, pleasure. What do we each need to feel good, to have an enjoyable, satisfactory, more than satisfactory experience? And the fifth conversation is exploration. What do we want to try next? When Xander and I were struggling with our own sex life, one of the challenges that was coming up for me is that I wanted to figure out what was going on between the two of us, but I didn't even understand myself what it was that I was looking for. I had this sense that something felt off with our sex life. It could be better, but I couldn't fully articulate what it was that I wanted. And so that personal experience motivated me to create a first part of Sex Talks where we help the reader understand more about themselves sexually, more about what your needs are, what your desires are, what turns you on, what turns you off, how your sex drive works, so that you can go into these conversations and they can be so much more valuable and effective when you're bringing in that information instead of just bringing in a bunch of complaints or frustrations.
And I think it can be really tempting to think that, well, our partner should be able to just know what it is that I want. And that's part of the fucking fairy tale too, is, especially, and there's a gender dynamic as well, where in male-female relationships, very often women will feel like, oh, well, it's the man's job to initiate sex. It's the man's job to know what it is that I want.
I mean, who wouldn't want a partner that could magically read your mind and do exactly everything that you wanted in and out of the bedroom?
Yeah, and that's a great fairy tale. It's a great fairy tale, but it's not real life, because in real life, we all like different things. Our anatomies are all slightly different, and what we each need to feel good is different. So it's not that your partner can just know exactly what it is that you want. You actually have to do a little bit of self-exploration and understand, how do I work? What is it that I need, before you can really effectively have these conversations.
If your partner's not ready to engage with you, first, I just want to say, I get it. We've been there ourselves.
Yep.
I wanted to work on our sex life and our relationship way earlier than Xander did. And there were really painful few months of me pushing him to have these conversations and him not being ready. So I just want to normalize that it's very common for couples to be on different timelines about having these kinds of conversations. But fortunately, because we've had that personal experience, we worked that into the book. And at different points in these conversations, we talk about, here's how to approach your partner if they don't want to have this conversation. And we also start it on this very positive and easy note with that acknowledgement conversation to help your partner recognize you're not just trying to initiate this to have a bunch of complaints and criticisms. You're actually looking to feel more intimacy with them.
Having those acknowledgement conversations early on, sooner rather than later, is a great way to start helping your partner feel more comfortable about sex as a topic. Because when you haven't talked about sex very much before, often, if it gets brought up, a partner who feels awkward about it or embarrassed is going to deflect or just try to shut a conversation down. But if you start building this foundation of, hey, this is a safe and comfortable topic of conversation for us that we regularly talk about, that's going to make things so much easier long term.
It is never too early or too late to have these conversations with your partner. If you're at the beginning stages of a relationship, it's so great to set that foundation early and have those positive experiences talking about sex. And even if you've been together for years, for decades, it's not too late to start having these conversations. We will still ease you into it and help you recognize that there's so much more intimacy that you can experience with each other.
And even if you're single, having the understanding of what these conversations are can make it so easy when you start dating someone, when you start getting more serious with them, because you can so easily just roll these into everyday conversation without there even needing to be this idea of, oh, hey, I'm reading a book about this, let's talk about it. Like, it will just come so naturally.